One of the most recognizable voices in Canadian journalism has gone silent. Veteran news anchor Lloyd Robertson has died at the age of 92. Robertson spent more than 4 decades delivering the news both for CTV and here at CBC News. He anchored the National before moving to CTV in 1976, where he stayed for another 35 years. His career spanned nearly a dozen federal elections, 2 Quebec referenda, the September 11th attacks, and numerous other historical events. Colleagues are remembering Robertson today as a trusted journalist who helped set the standard for television news in this country. Let's take a look back now at Lloyd Robertson's remarkable career and his lasting legacy.
Tonight's stories come from Washington, Sicily, Apollo 12.
It was the voice that caught the ear in the early days of TV news.
Good evening, Lloyd Robertson for CBC News.
His baritone delivery a steady soundtrack for some of the biggest stories of our times, like the first man on the moon in 1969.
I'm pinching myself because here I am, a little kid from Stratford, in the center of things.
Lloyd Robertson got his start in private radio, then joined CBC TV in the mid-1950s when staff announcers wore many hats.
Right now, it's your vacation time.
Roles in Vacation Time and Mr. Fix-It.
Take your pick. Which one is the Mona Lisa?
Everybody did everything, news, sports, weather, jazz shows, whatever.
Everything is in readiness here.
But news became his passion.
For the first time, a satellite over the Indian Ocean is being used.
As TV went from black and white to color, so did Lloyd. By the 1970s, Robertson was CBC's main news anchor,
Good evening.
guiding Canadians through tense moments like the FLQ crisis.
Canadians are mourning the death of Pierre Laporte at the hands of political assassins.
Greeting royals,
Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II.
and marking moments in political history.
Richard Milhouse Nixon, the President of the United States, will address the American people. That's the news.
Robertson was a fixture in Canadians' lives on CBC until 1976, when at 42 years old, he jumped ship. Joining CTV, first as co-anchor with Harvey Kirk,
The CTV National.
and then chief anchor for 3 decades.
Good evening. U.S. President Ronald Reagan has...
Shepherding viewers through some of the biggest crises in history. At home, a popular celebrity who covered 14 federal elections, as familiar to Canadians as the prime ministers he interviewed.
I'm not quitting before you.
Okay, that's the deal.
Jean Chrétien left his post long before Robertson, who announced he would leave CTV's anchor chair in 2011, turning it over to Lisa Laflamme, but staying on as a special correspondent for W5.
He has gained public trust for his integrity.
Robertson was awarded an Order of Canada,
the degree of Doctor of Laws,
multiple honorary degrees, and from his colleagues, the prestigious Gordon Sinclair Award. A special moment for the consummate professional,
And so we come to the end, and it couldn't
who's
happen at a
now
more fitting
delivered
time
his
than the
final
beginning of September
signature
2021.
sign-off to Canada.
And that's the kind of day it's been for all of us at CTV News. Good night.
Brings it all back, really. For a closer look at the legacy of Lloyd Robertson, we are joined by CBC's former chief correspondent and former host and anchor of the National, Peter Mansbridge. Peter, so nice to see you. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks, Susan. It's a sad day in some ways, but it's also a day to celebrate. And you caught so many of the moments of Lloyd's career in that video tribute that you just did. I mean, this was a guy who changed the face of television journalism in this country. When he started anchoring news management across the board, didn't matter which network, looked at news anchors as announcers. Those with the perfect pitch, the perfect pronunciations. Lloyd wanted news anchors to be looked at as journalists, of which he was one. And he succeeded. It took it, unfortunately, having to change networks. He left the CBC to join CTV, as you reported. But in that was the occasion where things changed. I mean, Lloyd's replacement was Peter Kent, and then Knowlton Nash, and then I was lucky enough to fill in after that. he actually changed the nature of television broadcasting in Canada. A tribute to him and to those who ensured that he was allowed to do it.
Peter, you say it's unfortunate he switched networks. Of course, he left some room for you to become one of the most recognizable voices in Canadian media. Of course, now, for a time, you were competitors. Did you have a rivalry, or what was your relationship with Lloyd?
No, we were friends. So the first program I did was 1970. It was a royal tour where Lloyd was anchoring for CBC Radio at that time. And I was a reporter in Churchill, Manitoba, doing the talkbacks with Lloyd, and we remained friends. In fact, the day I got the job as chief correspondent of the CBC, the first person who called me was Lloyd Robertson.
Really?
We shared a friendship and a rivalry. We both Lloyd was born and grew up here in Stratford, Ontario, where I live now. And we had some good laughs about Stratford. He started in the radio station here. They still remember him. I've already done a couple of interviews here in Stratford today, talking about Lloyd and the impact he's had.
Peter, you have had that chair and the pressures that go with it, the immense responsibility, especially during that time, Peter, that we lived through when media was very different. The anchors of our national newscasts were really seen as icons of news. Now we're all spread out many, many different ways to get your news. How do you think Lloyd handled that part of the job? Why was it that he had this recognizable stature as a journalist anchor?
Because he was calm, he was sincere, he was trustworthy. He had all the things that you needed to have in that job. And Canadians, from coast to coast, recognized that, and so did his, fellow journalists, no matter whether they were working in, the past 30, 40 years for CTV or whether they were elsewhere. They looked to Lloyd for an example of how to do the job. He was amazing under pressure, always was, but, it never went to his head. He was like calm and understanding of others' positions, and he was always helpful in mentoring. The first television news special I did was 1975, where he was anchoring the CBC coverage of the NDP leadership convention that elected Ed Broadbent in Winnipeg in 75. And it was my first one as a floor reporter. And he, before we went on air, he went to the trouble of seeking me out, talking to me, ensuring that I was calm and cool, and letting me know that, he'd be kind of looking after me from the anchor booth. And he did, and he always did. We used to, when we do big specials in the same location, we always used to touch base with each other just before we went to air and wished each other good luck. He was that kind of guy.
Wow. I remember a similar incident at a political convention where he was pulling me along, giving my live hit and making me feel comfortable. That certainly, and the mentorship has come up so many times, Peter, in the last few hours. Is there a particular moment or story that stands out to you about him?
Well, I'll tell you one. We used to agree that when we were both in Stratford, that we'd have lunch together, or at least a coffee together. And so we did this one day, and I don't know how long ago it was, 10, 15 years ago. We were having coffee in one of the little coffee shops in Stratford, and they'd placed us at the window at the front of the restaurant, so the window looking right out onto the street. And all of a sudden, people started to collect outside the window. They were pointing. Look at those two guys. I know those two guys. And we got quite a laugh out of that. But listen, we did so many of the same stories at different times in different parts of the world. We were in Normandy together for the 50th anniversary of D-Day. We were at Vimy Ridge, obviously at all the big political conventions. All of those will always remind me of Lloyd and the impact he had, not only on my life and my career, but on so many of us. I mean, Susan, you wouldn't be sitting there today if it wasn't for Lloyd.
Yep.
And the same goes for anchors across the country at different networks. and different stations. We all owe Lloyd something, and we send our best and our condolences to his family.
I appreciate that, Peter. As someone who's had similar chairs and responsibilities, we will remember. It's also fascinating, isn't it, just to look at the breadth of the history that he covered. You covered some of that as well. But it is good to look back and see what we do as journalists.
It certainly is, and remind ourselves of the obligations that are upon us about trust and truth and all of that Lloyd helped instill in all of us.
Indeed. Peter, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it. Nice to talk to you and see you again.
Nice to talk to you, Susan. Take care. Bye.
You too.